Thanks for staying with us. We are staying on developments in Turkey and Syria, where rescue operations have continued after an earthquake hit both countries on Monday. And joining me to have a conversation on this devastating development is international and constitutional law expert Livingston Wechie. He joins me via Zoom from Abuja. Good to have you join us.
Thank you and good afternoon.
So while rescue operations are ongoing, I think the biggest need at this moment, if you've been following developments, is humanitarian aid and humanitarian assistance. And I want to speak to you on the politics around that, especially with what's going on in Syria. But I just want to ask you first, how much do you think that international community will be willing to offer assistance, especially because there is so much attention on what's going on in Ukraine and how much help and assistance has gone into Ukraine already?
Well, first of all, I join in expressing a heartfelt, to the people of Turkey as well as Syria over this very devastating development. The politics in Turkey and Syria over the crisis is going to maybe result in some form of complication vis-a-vis humanitarian intervention at this time. But I think the international community must look beyond their nose and put humanitarianism first, because humanity should come first. It's unfortunate that this sad development has brought what I would call learning the hard lesson to conflict states, where we must tell ourselves that peace should be paramount in all that we do. Peace, because the region where this earthquake took place is a battleground of control between Turkey and Syria. That is a place where Turkey largely has gained a lot of control, resulting from the territorial crisis that has greeted the relationship between the both states. At the end of the day, the subject matter of conflict has now been largely destroyed. You recall that this conflict has dated up to 1939, where certain territories of Syria was annexed by Turkey, up to 2011, where the civil war took place in Syria. At the initial stage, Turkey had condemned the civil war. They had come in diplomatically and then subsequently militarily, where the whole war now escalated and Turkey began to intervene as well as interfere and raise its own army within the Syrian territory, all in a bid to undermine Syrian edges within that region. Now, I want to say something clearly.
If I may just quickly come in here, because you said something earlier, I don't want to lose that line of thought. You talked about how there is not so much attention on the conflict going on there, but just in some few seconds ago, I'm not sure, I don't know if you heard the report that fighting is still ongoing there. What is the prospect of a ceasefire? And then what would be the impact of the sanctions on Syria in the international community's ability to offer assistance at the moment?
You know, this is where leadership comes to play. Because number one, conflict is still ongoing, fighting is still ongoing. Remember that the region occupied by Turkey, the Anatolian fault line, is said to be one of the most vulnerable areas for earthquakes, apart from San Advance in California. Now, leadership must take responsibility at this time globally to bring to table those who are in charge of the various regions, particularly you can fight. I think it is a bit do I call it insensitive, some form of irresponsibility and inhuman for anybody at this time of mutual, you call it act of God, where every one of them are victims of the circumstance, continue to engage in gun battle. Yes, there has not been any day passing without you hearing of firing and shellings between the Kurdish-led militia backed by the US, the Turkish forces, as well as the Syrian opposition forces backed by Turkey within Syria. Killings, destruction of properties have continued, all because of territorial control. So the possibility of a ceasefire at this time should be paramount to the international community by placing that on the table as a precondition for assistance to compel leaders of these warring and conflict-ridden states to lay down their arms. Because you see, when you talk about the death of more than 5,000, this is about the worst earthquake in Turkey in the past 80 years. And it should worry the leadership of that nation, particularly Abbas as well as Erdogan. Both of them must call themselves to order, because in insisting that we must maintain control over this territory, the territory has been tampered with by an act of God. Frustration has set in. So it's important that
let's look at this even more broadly, especially within the region. Yes. Israel has said that it is open to helping Syria. It is already sending aid to Turkey, but it's saying it's open to helping Syria, but it doesn't have any relations with that country. Do you think that within that region, the Middle East, we're likely to see the kind of coordination we saw around the Beirut blast, where a lot of the countries in the Middle East came out to offer support to Lebanon at that time? Are we likely to see that also play out in Turkey and Syria?
Now, there's going to be a loose intervention. Mind you, the big players in the international community, Russia and the US, are preoccupied with the Russia-Ukraine, you call it war or you call it invasion or whatever it is, but they are currently preoccupied. Russia has a lot of sympathy for Turkey, even though, as well as Syria, because it has military base in these areas. Now, Russia may not, countries like the US and other neighboring nations will want to put the relationship they have with each of these nations to determine the extent of intervention. There is going to be some trouble because it's also another card for negotiation. There have been times where the United States have also looked forward to Turkey holding back on its objection to the membership of Finland and Sweden to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So this will be an opportunity for that. Is in a difficult middle because its interest lies more in Syria, where it is trying to use the Kurdish-led militia to assert governance and maintain a measure of resistance against the government in power. But again, it also needs the support of Turkey to aid Finland and Sweden to come into membership of NATO. So there is going to be a lot of negotiation where this unfortunate incident will serve as a negotiable instrument. Sadly, humanity is the subject matter on the table here, but there appears to be that those who may not be in good terms with Turkey may not come to the aid of Turkey because Turkey is worse hit. And Turkey has been crying out.
And then we'll also see how many countries are willing to soften their stance towards Syria as well, as we continue to monitor development in the country. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, international and constitutional law expert, Livingston Wechie.